Brian Blount, Union Presbyterian Seminary, Richmond, Virginia, Charlotte, North Carolina. What does it mean to be Christian in the 21st century? Well, I'm a biblical scholar, so first thing I think of is the first century. What did it mean to be a Christian in the first century? I think we take the cue to our answer from the answer to that question. And in the first century, I think it meant that you were someone who conveyed a foolish, stumbling block kind of story that God had invaded human history in the form of a person, Jesus of Nazareth. A person who went about cavorting with, touching the wrong kinds of people, who went about challenging and then breaking many of the sacred and sacrosanct traditions and laws of his time. A person who envisioned God's future in a way that was so disruptive and dangerous that the leaders of his time sought to get him out of the way by putting him to death rather than allowing that vision of the future to be realized. Well, I think it means the same thing in the 21st century, being willing to convey the story that God has invaded our world. God continues to invade our world with the presence of God's Spirit and in the presence of God's people, to anticipate a vision of God's reign, God's future, and then having anticipated and foreseen that vision of the future, to work to do whatever is necessary to bring that future into realization in the present. And it is a future that is as disruptive and dangerous in the 21st century as it was in the first century, because it challenges the way in which we live today as it challenged the way people lived in the first century. When we think about the social circumstances and situations that confront us, the political divisiveness, the political challenges, the international issues and concerns, when we think about what it means to live in a multi-ethnic, multinational, multicultural world today, an interfaith community, when we think about secular issues that confront us, when we think about laws and traditions and norms that hinder people from becoming their fullest or reaching their fullest potential in the same way that many of those traditions did in the first century, when we think about what it means to envision God's future as breaking through, as transforming all of that into the possibility of us being able to live out the kind of existence, to become the kind of people God would have us to be. When we think about the kind of people, the kind of world that God envisions for us in God's future, in God's reign, and having envisioned that, to do all that we can to create that vision in the present, to make that future realizable now, I think that's what it means to be a Christian in the 21st century. It means we tell a provocative, disruptive story about the future, and we do everything we possibly can to make that future real in our present, no matter what it takes.